Your special person is not who they are pretending to be. Believe it or not, the truth is that your person is. My beloved child. The person who has occupied your thoughts for so long is not who they appear to be, and somewhere deep inside, you have already felt it. Have you ever noticed the moments when their smiles seemed just a little too perfect, or when their words sounded carefully chosen instead of naturally spoken? Those were not meaningless coincidences. They were tiny cracks in a mask that has taken years to build. But before your mind races to the worst possible conclusion, pause for a moment. The truth is far stranger than betrayal, and far more emotional than deception. Someone close to them has spent a long time believing they understood who this person really was, only to discover that every assumption was incomplete. Why would someone hide their real identity from the very person they care about? What could be so important that pretending felt safer than simply telling the truth? Don't skip. The answer begins with something they have never been able to forgive themselves for, and the next clue changes everything you thought you knew. The strange part is that your special person never intended for the disguise to last this long. At first, it was only meant to protect a fragile piece of themselves they believed no one would accept. They became the strong one, the fearless one, the person who always seemed in control. Yet every time they looked at you, that carefully crafted version of themselves became harder to maintain. Have you ever wondered why they sometimes pulled away just when things seemed to be getting closer? It was never because you lacked value. It was because every genuine moment with you threatened to expose the truth they had spent years hiding from everyone else. The closer you came, the louder their fears became. Stay till the end, because the next discovery explains why certain conversations ended so suddenly, why unanswered messages appeared at the worst possible moments, and why silence became their safest hiding place instead of honesty. Now another piece falls into place. The secret is not that your special person has been pretending to love you. The secret is that they have been pretending to be someone strong enough to deserve you. Behind the confident image is someone carrying a burden they have never fully shared, convinced that if you ever saw the real version of them, you would quietly walk away without looking back. That fear has shaped almost every decision they have made, including choices that seemed confusing, distant, or even cold. But something has recently begun to change. A moment they never expected forced them to question whether hiding has protected them at all. Or only pushed away the one person they never wanted to lose. They are standing at a crossroads where the mask can no longer survive, and when it finally comes off, the truth waiting underneath is not what anyone has been preparing for. Everything shifted the moment they realized the mask was becoming heavier than the truth itself. For years, they believed that pretending was the only way to keep the people they loved from seeing their deepest insecurities. But recently, something unexpected happened. They overheard a conversation they were never supposed to hear, words that made them believe they had already lost you without ever revealing who they truly were. That single moment shook them more than anyone realizes. Since then, every decision has carried a silent question: what if the person I have been protecting is actually the one I have been hurting? They replay old memories again and again, searching for the exact moment when fear became stronger than honesty. The more they search, the more they understand that the life they carefully built is beginning to fall apart from the inside. There is another truth that almost no one around them has noticed. Whenever they are alone, they are not the confident person everyone believes they are. They become quiet, reflective, even regretful. They think about the words they never said, the messages they erased before sending, and the opportunities they allowed fear to steal from them. Have you ever sensed that someone was trying to tell you something without speaking a single word? That feeling was never your imagination. Every hesitation, every unexpected silence, every sudden change in direction carried a message hidden beneath the surface. They wanted you to understand without forcing themselves to confess. But silence has a dangerous way of creating misunderstandings, and those misunderstandings have now grown far larger than they ever intended. Something huge is waiting for you, because a choice made in secret is about to bring everything into the open. What they still don't realize is that the truth can no longer stay hidden forever. Someone else has started noticing the inconsistencies, the carefully rehearsed explanations, and the emotions they can no longer conceal. Questions are being asked. Connections are being made. The walls they spent years building are beginning to crack one by one. Your special person feels it, even if they cannot explain why. They wake up with the uneasy feeling that time is running out, that the version of themselves they created is about to disappear forever. The only question left is whether they will gather the courage to reveal the truth on their own. Or whether someone else will uncover the secret before they ever get the chance. The first sign arrived so quietly that almost everyone ignored it. A familiar place suddenly felt different to them. A simple conversation lingered in their mind for hours. Even ordinary moments began carrying unusual weight, as though life itself was urging them to stop running. They could no longer separate the person they pretended to be from the person they truly were inside. Every smile required effort. Every confident answer felt rehearsed. They started asking themselves a question they had avoided for years: if I keep hiding, what happens when the only person who ever saw something real in me finally gives up? That question refused to disappear. It followed them through every decision, growing louder each day until it became impossible to silence. Then another unexpected piece entered the story. Someone from their past reappeared. Not to expose them, but to remind them of who they used to be before fear changed everything. This person remembered their genuine laughter, their honest dreams, and the kindness they once showed without hesitation. Hearing those memories stirred emotions they thought had disappeared forever. Suddenly, they realized they had spent so much time protecting themselves from rejection that they had also protected themselves from happiness. They began looking back at every moment they shared with you through completely different eyes. What if you had never been asking for perfection? What if all you ever wanted was the real person hidden beneath the carefully crafted image? Stay with this story, because the answer to that question is about to force them into the most difficult decision of their life. Now the pressure is becoming impossible to escape. Every path in front of them leads to the same moment. A moment where pretending is no longer an option. They know that once the truth is spoken, nothing will remain the same. Some people may walk away. Others may finally understand. But the greatest uncertainty is you. Will you recognize the person standing behind the mask, or will the years of silence have already built a wall too high to cross? They have reached the point where one honest conversation could heal everything, or end the story before it truly begins. And just as they prepare to take that first step, an unexpected discovery stops them cold, because the truth they were ready to confess is only one part of a much bigger secret that has been hidden all along. Just when they believed they had found the courage to reveal everything, a forgotten piece of the past resurfaced without warning. It wasn't a dramatic confession or a shocking message. It was something much quieter. A detail they had buried so deeply that they convinced themselves it no longer mattered. But the moment it returned, they understood why they had spent so many years pretending. The mask had never been created to fool you. It had been created to escape a version of themselves they wished had never existed. They feared that if you learned about the choices they once regretted, you would stop seeing the person they had become and only remember who they used to be. That fear has controlled every step since the day your paths crossed, but now it is beginning to lose its power. As those memories returned, they started noticing something they had overlooked countless times. You were never drawn to the image they projected. You always responded to the rare moments when the real person quietly slipped through. Think back to the unexpected pauses, the honest laughter that appeared for only a second, or the vulnerable look they quickly tried to hide. Those were never accidents. They were glimpses of the person desperately trying to break free. Every time you accepted those moments without judgment, you unknowingly weakened the walls they had spent years building. They are finally beginning to understand that perhaps the greatest risk is no longer telling the truth, but continuing to live inside a story that no longer belongs to them. Don't skip, because the next realization changes the meaning of everything that came before. Now another mystery begins to unfold. While they have been struggling with their own hidden identity, someone else has been quietly observing the entire situation. This person has noticed the hesitation, the unfinished conversations, and the emotions your special person keeps trying to conceal. But instead of exposing them, they have remained silent, waiting for the right moment. Why? Because they know a truth your special person has not yet discovered. The mask is not the only secret standing between the two of you. There is one final piece that connects your lives in a way neither of you could have predicted. And when that hidden connection finally comes into the light, your special person will realize that the greatest surprise was never who they were pretending to be, it was who they were always destined to become. A quiet change began long before anyone noticed it. Your special person started letting small pieces of the mask fall away without realizing it. A guarded answer became an honest one. A forced smile slowly turned genuine. The distance they once kept between you no longer felt as safe as it used to. Every time they tried to return to the version of themselves they had carefully created, something inside refused to cooperate. They kept hearing the same thought over and over: how much longer can I keep pretending? The question haunted their quiet moments because deep down they already knew the answer. The disguise had protected them once, but now it was becoming the very thing preventing the life they secretly wanted. What they still didn't understand was that someone had already noticed this transformation before they did. That observer wasn't watching with judgment. They were watching with understanding. They had seen this pattern before. A person who built walls so high that even they forgot what was on the other side. One unexpected conversation changed everything. Without revealing too much, this observer simply asked, "What are you afraid will happen if they finally meet the real you?" Your special person couldn't answer. Not because they didn't know, but because speaking the truth aloud would make it impossible to hide anymore. For the first time, they admitted something only to themselves. They weren't afraid of rejection anymore. They were afraid they had waited too long. Stay till the end, because that realization pushed them toward a decision they had been avoiding for years, and there was no turning back once it was made. As they prepared to reveal everything, another unexpected truth emerged. The person they had been pretending to be wasn't entirely false. It was a collection of qualities they genuinely wished to become: confidence, courage, peace, and certainty. The mask had started as protection, but somewhere along the journey, it became a promise of who they hoped they could one day be. Now they stand between two lives, the one built on fear and the one waiting to begin with honesty. Yet just as they gather the courage to step forward, they uncover a hidden detail that leaves them completely speechless. Someone has been quietly preserving a memory, a message, or a moment they believed had disappeared forever. And what it reveals about your connection will force your special person to question whether destiny has been guiding every step from the very beginning. The discovery came when they least expected it. Hidden among forgotten memories was something they thought had vanished forever, a message never delivered, a keepsake never thrown away, a moment that time refused to erase. Holding it again made their carefully guarded emotions collapse. They suddenly realized that while they had spent years convincing themselves to move on, some part of their heart had quietly stayed exactly where it first recognized something extraordinary in you. That realization was impossible to ignore. It wasn't nostalgia. It wasn't guilt. It was the unmistakable feeling that every attempt to become someone else had only led them back to the same truth. The person they had been running from was actually the person they were always meant to become. As the pieces continued falling into place, they began revisiting every misunderstanding between the two of you. The awkward silences. The missed opportunities. The conversations that ended too soon. They no longer looked like random disappointments. Instead, they formed a pattern that revealed how fear had been making decisions long before either of you realized it. They started asking themselves a difficult question. What if the distance between us was never created by fate, but by the version of me that refused to be honest? The answer unsettled them because it meant something powerful. If fear had created the distance, then courage might still have the power to erase it. Don't skip, because the next choice they make will test whether that belief is true. Now they stand at the edge of a moment that cannot be postponed any longer. The mask is no longer protecting them, it is trapping them. Every instinct tells them to keep hiding, yet every beat of their heart urges them to step into the light, no matter what the outcome may be. They know the truth could change everything between you forever. It could bring healing, or it could bring heartbreak. But another unexpected sign appears before they can act, one that neither of you could have predicted. Someone who has remained silent from the very beginning is finally ready to speak, carrying a piece of the story that your special person has never known, and that hidden revelation has the power to rewrite everything you thought this journey was really about. The silence finally broke, but not in the way anyone expected. The person who had watched everything unfold stepped forward with calm certainty, carrying a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. They didn't accuse your special person. They didn't expose them. Instead, they revealed something far more unsettling. Every time your special person tried to walk away, they always found a reason to look back. Every attempt to close the door somehow led them right back to the same connection they had been trying so hard to escape. That wasn't coincidence. It was proof that no matter how convincing the mask became, their heart had never truly followed the story they were pretending to live. Hearing those words left them completely still, because for the first time, someone had described them more accurately than they had ever described themselves. Then came the question they could no longer avoid. If the mask had fallen away today, who would remain? They closed their eyes and searched for the answer, expecting uncertainty. Instead, one image kept returning: you. Not because you completed them, but because you were the only person who had unknowingly inspired them to become honest with themselves. They remembered the times you noticed subtle changes that everyone else overlooked, the moments when you seemed to understand emotions they never spoke aloud. Those memories carried an uncomfortable truth. You had been seeing fragments of the real person all along, even while they believed they had hidden everything perfectly. Stay till the end, because one final realization is about to force them into the conversation they have postponed for far too long. Now nothing remains except a single decision. Continue living behind a carefully crafted identity, or risk everything by revealing the person they truly are. Their hands hesitate. Their thoughts race. Yet beneath the fear, a quiet sense of relief begins to grow. They finally understand that the greatest secret was never that they fooled everyone around them. The greatest secret was that they had been fooling themselves, believing they were too broken, too flawed, or too late to deserve something real. That illusion is beginning to disappear. But just as they prepare to tell you everything, they uncover one last hidden truth, a truth about your connection that neither of you has ever questioned before. And once that final piece is revealed, the story you thought was about a disguise will become something far more unexpected than anyone could have imagined. The final hidden piece did not arrive with noise or drama. It arrived as a quiet realization that changed the meaning of every moment you had shared. Your special person finally understood that the connection between you was never built on perfection. It survived misunderstandings, distance, unanswered questions, and long periods of silence because it had always been rooted in something much deeper than appearances. They began replaying every memory from a completely different perspective. The moments they once believed were failures suddenly became evidence that you had been patiently seeing beyond the mask all along. Every time they expected you to judge them, you responded with understanding. Every time they prepared for rejection, they found compassion instead. That frightened them more than anything else, because genuine acceptance is far more difficult to hide from than criticism ever is. With that realization came the hardest truth they had ever faced. The greatest obstacle between the two of you was never another person, never bad timing, and never the circumstances they blamed for so long. It was the fear that had quietly directed every important decision they made. The version of themselves they presented to the world was never their enemy, it was simply a shield that had remained in place long after the danger had disappeared. For the first time, they stopped asking, "What if they discover who I really am?" Instead, a new question took its place. What if revealing my true self is the only way this story can finally move forward? That single question changed everything. It gave them the courage to stop rehearsing imaginary conversations and begin preparing for a real one, even though they had no idea how it would end. Now they stand closer to the truth than ever before, carrying no elaborate disguise, no carefully written script, and no perfect image to protect. Only honesty remains. They know the conversation ahead could reshape both of your lives, but they also know that continuing to hide would cost far more than taking one brave step forward. Yet just as they gather the courage to reveal everything, one final "sir"